Morning, Phil.
Good morning, Sally.
You thought it might be Thomas. Well, Thomas is busy doing some other things this week. So my friend Phil and I are going to talk about toys. Phil, you helped me with Micronauts, but you're really in love with a guy, aren't you?
I am. He's a American hero and is responsible for big bond drives back in the day and protecting us for the foreseeable future. G.I. Joe.
And you told me one time, you were very specific. You said, not the fuzzy haired ones, Sally, not the fuzzy. I don't know what a fuzzy haired one is, but you do the little ones, like the 3.5 inches.
Correct. 3.5 inches. The 6-inch ones were the ones that came out in the 1970s and before, I believe. That was before my time. And those were the ones I never got into. In the 80s, when G.I. Joe came out, that's when I got into them. And they were the smaller guys.
Well, are they plastic, rubber? What are they?
They are made up of plastic, and they actually have one rubber component on the inside. It's called an O-ring. It's just a little black ring, and it keeps all the joints together in the chest and hip.
Oh, so I was thinking that G.I. Joes were molded. Like I remember seeing some that only were down on the ground and had a gun, and some that only stood up. But do they move around, or do they have movable parts?
They do have movable parts. When they first made them in 1982, Hasbro made them where they could almost do like a bicep shot. They could actually bend their arms and do a bicep shot, or they could also kneel. The cool thing about them is that they're different from Star Wars in that Star Wars could only move their arms straight up and down. You couldn't bend them in any directions. They were just up, down, legs, and that was it.
You could bend them, but only once because they broke, right?
Yeah, if you didn't bend them up and down, they were breaking. Trust me.
Well, you don't happen to have a few G.I. Joes that you own yourself, do you?
I have a few, only a few hundred. Yes.
Well, do you categorize them by? I mean, do the GI Joes? Do they have years of issue, or are they all? How do you tell one that's manufactured in 1 year versus another year?
They're all stamped, and a lot of them are stamped on the buttocks of the figure.
Oh, a tramp stamp.
Yeah, pretty much, and that'll give you the country it was made in and the year it was made.
I didn't know they were blue. I thought they were all green. The ones I always saw were green.
Well,
No.
you know, when G.I. Joe came to be, yeah, you can see it's not very tall. It's the 3-inch figure. When G.I. Joe came to be, they went to Hasbro, and Hasbro wanted to make this toy and appeal to young children like myself. And the directors of them said they wanted to do a tie-in with comics and toys and possibly a cartoon. So the people behind the comic book decided, well, G.I. Joe needs an enemy. They need, every protagonist needs an antagonist. So they came up with Cobra. And they made them the nameless, faceless group of the army that would fight against the G.I. Joe.
You don't happen to have a Cobra laying around that I could look at, do you?
This would be the Cobra commander. This is the guy in charge of.
And how do I tell him from a G.I. Joe? By his color, or?
Well, the simple fact that he has a cobra right on the middle of his chest.
That would be a true giveaway, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It would. It would. That's a dead giveaway. But I'll get back to him. He has a very interesting story behind him. But G.I. Joe itself, they come in different colors from different countries. This is a guy that would be a G.I. Joe figure. He is from India under the Fun School company brand. And his name is
Phil. He gets out of focus when you get him too close. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So right about here, Spearhead is his name. And some of them came with their own little pet. So you have a little orange
I had no
bobcat.
idea. Huh.
Yeah.
So we've got GI Joes, and then we've got the enemy Cobra that
Correct.
always has the thing, and sometimes the Cobra guys have pets.
Some of the Cobra guys do have pets. I don't know if I have any available right now. Oh, wait, I think I do. No, not in this bag, unfortunately.
The Cobra guys are the 3.5-inch tall ones too, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, what are the ones that I had that were, I think they were even smaller than 3.5, and they were just solid green, and they came in a little chest that said GI Joe, like a foot locker with some ropes on the end of it.
Right. Back when I was a kid, they had the same things you're talking about. Those are the little, what we call the little green army men. And the
Okay.
plastic, they're a green plastic, and they were in several poses of modeled plastic. And they, one guy had a M16 rifle, and he was in a kneeling position. You had a guy who was dropping a mortar rocket into a mortar tube. You had a guy that was had his hand back, and he was telling everybody to go forward. And then you had
I
a guy with a bazooka.
Are those collectible, Phil?
Not really. They were mass produced. They actually still made. You can still find some in some stores. They're
Green
not
guy.
very desirable. There's just so many of them.
Okay, well, I still have a bunch of those little green guys, and it looks like I'm just going to keep them. Phil, so how did you start collecting them? Did you start collecting them as a kid and then kind of got into it and began researching them? And
Well, yeah, as a kid, obviously the first toy I ever had was the Micronauts, which you and I had discussed. And to go back to what you had said, we had actually met on eBay. I think I asked you a question, and you responded with the story that you had got it from your nephew. And then we talked more about that. You gave me your info, and then we started talking, texting each other.
the GI Joes, am I likely to find those at thrift stores or garage sales, or I mean, are they pretty tough to find now? Where do you find yours without revealing a source?
No, they're not very hard to find. Obviously, they don't make them anymore. They only made them from 1982 to 1994. That was the original line that they had, and then they stopped for a few years, and they came back in, I believe it was 1998, and then in the 2000s, and then it's been kind of going on every few years. They release a new brand. Or a new reiteration of them, but they've gotten bigger, they've gotten more articulate. And me being a child of the 80s, I'm nostalgic for all the ones that I grew up with. So I only collect the 3 3/4 inch figures from 1982 to 1994. And those you can find
Are you
if you're not,
still buying them?
I'm sorry?
Are you still buying them now? So if somebody's watching has some, what kind, so how will they know the year that you're looking for? Again, it will be stamped on the butt.
Right. It'll be stamped on the butt or on the inside of the thigh. Now let's see if I can. One of these guys might have one.
Inside of the thigh. Wow.
The inside of the thigh, yes.
And it will actually have a year on it. And you really like which year is the 1982, did you say?
1982 to 1994.
Oh, okay. That's quite a great range. So if somebody watching
Yeah.
has any of those and they want to bulk load them, bulk offset them, or sell them, I'm going to go ahead and post, and in fact, it may magically appear as we're discussing your email to email you. Is that the best way to get in touch with you, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. Email, you can always look me up on Facebook. My name is still the same that I use here. There's no, I'm not under a pseudonym of any kind. But as you can see in the left inside thigh, and it's probably gonna be really hard to tell, and especially with the coloring, everything. Trust me, there's writing there. It has Hasbro, and then it has the year that this figure was made. So
Uh,
two
Phil,
places, the butt or the inside thigh.
many toys are subject to a lot of fakery, chicanery, fakery. Do I have to worry too much if I find something that looks like that and it's stamped like that? Has there been a big business in faking them, or are these pretty easy to, are these not going to be fakes?
Well, when it comes to the figures themselves, those are difficult to fake. The money is in the weapons and the accessories that come with the figures.
Oh.
Those have been prone to mass produced, and then people putting them out uh, under prices that are just that are more than the figure if you were to find it complete. So a weapon like this, which is just a simple laser with a cord at the end, which goes to a guy by the name of Sci-Fi. Oh no, I'm sorry, Flash.
Of course.
Flash would have this laser. Now they would make. Now I'm just using this as an example. Places in China have mass produced very hard to find weapons and accessories and will flood the market with them. So sometimes you'll get a item that you think is legitimate that came, the figure's correct, but the weapon or accessory is fake.
Could I
So
pass one off on you, or would you know the difference?
there is websites you can use. And 3D Joe's and Yojo are very good sites to go on, and you can blow up the pictures of the weapons, and you can tell what specific plastic moldings it's supposed to have.
Okay, so
Yeah.
like this is, I think this is a Micronaut one.
No, that's a
But-
Star Wars gun that goes
Oh,
to
right.
ID88.
Oh, yeah, so I knew that. So are there sites then even with these that I could, how do you know that's a Star Wars gun? It looks like everybody else's gun.
The
No?
Star Wars guns are they're usually a solid blue or black, and they just look like something from a sci-fi movie. And then as someone who grew up with the Star Wars movies and have seen them a million times, I can tell a Star Wars toy as opposed to a G.I. Joe toy in a heartbeat.
Oh, that helps or not. Ooh, gosh, light is terrible around here. Okay, well, there's that. So what is one of the most difficult GI Joes to find in the ones that you collect? Is there anything you're missing that I could hold you for ransom for?
I unfortunately have a lot of stuff right now. The only things I'm really looking for are the hard to find. They're called Night Force, and it's a subset of GI Joes where they just took the same mold of the Joe and they just colored it differently, and those are very pricey. You could get one figure that would only cost you, I don't know, $25, $35 in the original mold and coloring. But because they colored it black and gray, now it's going for 200.
I'm just thinking if I have any black and gray paint in the back.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's also easy to spot too. Sometimes
And
it's
doggone it. Every time I want to be a crook, somebody stands in my way. Well, so if I find something that looks like a GI Joe, but it's black and gray, will it still have the stamps on the thigh and the butt?
yes.
Okay,
Yes, it will.
I'm going to look for that.
Yeah.
And do GI Joes have vehicles and things like those damn Micronauts, or
They did. They came out with a lot of vehicles.
mostly
One of the vehicles. Well, actually, they had tanks, they had ATVs, they had ships, they had boats, tactical battle platforms, just all sorts of things.
I'm going to plug in.
Every vehicle you can imagine.
Keep talking. I'm trying to plug
Okay.
in
One of the things that they that I like where art imitates life is later on in the G.I. Joe toy series, they had a subset which was called Tiger Force. And this was just a recolored version of the guys they already had. But, you know, because they were colored differently,
Tiger
and they
stripe.
put Tiger Force. Tiger
No, but they
Force.
have tiger stripes, it looks like.
Yeah, oh, yes, yes, they have tiger stripes. They're supposed to be, you know, in the desert fighting against Cobra. But what was interesting is that as a kid, I really didn't care for them. I picked up a couple here and there, but really didn't care about them. It wasn't until a couple years ago that I read in behind the story of Tiger Force, and it was actually a unit in Vietnam War that was credited with the most confirmed kills of the enemy during the war. And I found that just totally fascinating.
Well, you'd said there's an interesting backstory to Cobra. What's his deal?
So the interesting backstory to the Cobra Commander I was referring to is, so you have Cobra Commander, and this is the version what they call 1.5. Now the 1.5 means he's exactly the same except for two small little differences. One is that the arms have what's called a swivel arm. So I can turn it that way if I wanted to.
I gotcha.
Okay. What makes him different from him, which is the first one they ever made, is that he can't turn his arm
Horizontal. Oh, I see.
Right.
Oh, like this.
Right.
Huh.
But if you look, this guy is called a Mickey Mouse. So the
Not to
company,
his face.
yeah, when the company made it, the Cobra emblem is kind of goofy looking. It doesn't look like an actual Cobra. So we call it the Mickey Mouse Cobra.
Oh,
So the difference between this guy and this guy, where you can see it looks like an actual Cobra snake,
okay.
it's a $500 difference.
Oh, wow. So which do I want to go for? The Mickey Mouse?
You want the Mickey Mouse.
All right, I can't see that really well. No, it's
Okay,
too.
let me pull it back.
Oh, I'm gonna
Let me
look it up. I
actually
might
see
even
it.
post something.
Or maybe you can take a picture of it and then
I'll
do it that way.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Or I'll take a picture of it and I can send it to you that way.
Perfect. And then I'll just post it with his.
Yeah. So this guy
Wow.
goes for about 150 to 200, depending on the condition, you know, and that's the one that you can turn the arms that way. And then this is the one with the different Cobra logo, who can only, you know, do the little bicep pose. He can't turn his arm the other way. And this one goes for about 700.
Right now, if I looked on eBay, would I find a $700? What would I call it? I'm gonna look on eBay right now. What would I call him?
He would be called Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander.
Okay, and we're gonna go for Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander.
Yes.
Got so many things open here, I can't find them. Notifications, home, there it is. All right, G.I. Joe 1982, Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander, custom display with card. Oh, this is just a display, huh? Oh, Jesus, down below, G.I. Joe ARAH 1982 Cobra Commander Mickey Mouse action figure, $549.99.
Yeah.
Wow. And here is, here's another, here you want, jump on and buy this. 1982 G.I. Joe Cobra Commander V1 Mickey Mouse symbol, $149.99 free shipping.
Yeah, but the condition is also a factor
Yeah, I
when
see
buying
something
these.
laying there like an arm or something, so it's probably
Yeah.
not. Okay. Oh, here's one for 725. Good grief.
Yep.
Okay, I got a new bolo for myself. So if I were going to live another 100 years, I probably will, but let's say I am. Is there anything you know of on the market currently that is going to turn out to be one of these guys that in 20 years I'm going to be spending $700 for?
Uh,
I often wonder if it, it's always the old ones. Is it because they're older? Is it because they could shoot things that would put a cat's eye out and we can't do that now? And that's why they're,
Usually it's based on the how many were actually made, and that's usually one of the driving factors. How many are still in circulation, and how many are complete and hard to find. The Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander is one of those. Not only was it one of the first ones ever to come out, the fact that it has a different logo than all the other Cobra troopers that came after it. But to find it in that condition, which is I was lucky enough to get a couple years ago for only a couple hundred, and now I could turn around and sell it for $7, which would be a great profit, but I can't get rid of it.
you don't turn,
Those,
do you sell anything?
I do. Usually when I come across a big lot of stuff, usually it's, a guy around my age or somebody, it's maybe the parents, and the kids don't want it anymore because, they're in their 50s and they moved on. So the
Hopefully,
parents want
would
to try
hope.
to get rid of it. Yeah. So the guys will try to get rid of it, or the parents will get rid of it for them, and they'll just want to sell it all, all the toys that they had, all the figures, and they don't want to mess with it because trying to match up, especially when you have a whole bunch, just imagine a big box of figures, and then you have another big box of
I don't have to
weapons.
imagine it, Phil. You've been with me when I've been gone, when we've gone through these big boxes of
True,
things.
true. And then, trying to talk to somebody and tell them, no, it's the green one. No, not that green one, the other green one, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, there's different
The one with
colors.
the cobra that looks like a snake. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. Huh.
Right, exactly. So some of them, one of the ones that are really, really expensive right now is it's called a uh, oh God, the name escapes me. Shadow Viper, I think it is. Oh, Red Ninja. It's a Red Ninja, and only a few were made towards the end of GI Joe in 1994. And he came with a vehicle, and I don't even have one to show you, but it's called the Red Ninja, and he came with a red axe, and those are very, very hard to find. Really hard to find because
I'm going
they
to find
make a whole lot of them.
one and post it on our video. So if somebody happens to have one of those laying in there, I'll tell you what, it's going to be some wife who's going to sell it. You know that she's going to say, you know what? You didn't take the garbage out. Let's get rid of one of these old crappy toys. And there goes
Yeah.
your ninja. And there goes the marriage, probably. There goes the
And
marriage.
she'll sell it for like, $30 or something when she could get almost 1,000 for it.
So I'm gonna split this video into a couple of them because we have a lot to talk about these little guys that shoot things too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any GI Joe questions, I have found Phil to be very generous in terms of helping identify and talk about these things. If you have something for sale and want to know value of it, or are interested in selling it, Phil may be in the market. And so I am going to post, maybe magically right now, his contact information. So now I know more about GI Joe. I could be the coolest great grandmother in the world right now. I might just kind of have to show off this newfound knowledge to it. Even my grandkids are grown. What am I talking about? Anyway, Phil, thank you very much for this section on GI Joe. And in just a minute, we're going to go on and talk about, I guess, Micronauts.
Yeah, we can do Micronauts or Star Wars. I have both standing by.
Perfect. I have all of them. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.